So here's my season report so far. So I haven't done one each round. I will do it for the rest of the rounds, but I'm just busy. So first we have this game, which kind of showed that Sydney isn't as strong as they were last year. If you just scroll down here, there's you can see the graph that Sydney kind of made a comeback around quarter 3, and then they kind of dropped off again. Look at the full timeline. See the last few goals, and then goals by and the comeback kind of started, and then started a fall and goal. And also you could see 11, 10 to 42. See how bad this season is gonna be with things, and Sydney didn't fully win any of these, so that's a bit of a problem that I'd watch if they were. And yeah, and then we have the next game. It also was a bit of a interesting game that showed the Giants had real skill, and Collingwood also had skill, but they just added their kicking efficiency. 6-16 is really bad. You can see by this box that in the first it was pretty close down to the third. But yeah, there's no chance. And what it makes sense is how Darcy Cameron got the most fantasy points. So, what happened? Why was Darcy Cameron so good? Anyway, so once this new thing that's like this shows all these little things is pretty good. This was probably the closest game of the season so far. Richmond showing that they're not the bottom side. Carlton showing that they are horrible. 13-49-15 kind of sums up the match. Still, Tom DeCloning did pretty well, and it was mainly a comeback by Richmond. As you can see, back in the quarter 2, Carlton was doing really well, and then it just didn't go well. If you look at the full timeline, sure, it's just crazy. So from here on, it's gonna be just Richmond. This is outrageous. Yeah, it would have been great time for Richmond supporters, but not so great for Carlton. A lot of people just kicked 2 goals, 9 tackles, but Patrick Cripps had to go out with the disposals, and Tom DeCloning had to go out with the fantasy. So, I don't know, didn't Carlton... I kind of need to take Carlton out of this. They're not doing that well. I was thinking, they can lose to Richmond. Who can't they lose to? But it seems like Carlton was still winning every single one of these. Just like the efficiency and were a lot less than Richmond. 3-3 is a bigger for Carlton. Hit-outs and total clearances were a big part of the game for Richmond. Centre clearances for Carlton, and stoppage clearances for Richmond. That's another big part. And contested possessions, uncontested possessions, turnovers, intercepts. All going to Carlton here. So except for turnovers, but yeah, and if you look at the possession heat map, it's just that's where all Richmond had it up and down. It's quarter 1. So it's getting really hot. And then, like, by quarter 4, it was just all on their side. Match. Time possession. Charlton all in that one. Marks. Charlton still winning. Time in front. Charlton won that as well. It was just crazy game. Each team's last goal, quarter 4. That's not that bad. We just lead 41 points, 17 points. Yeah, 41 points is crazy to lose. Rushed 3, touch 0. And there was no touch balls, which is very interesting. Chin got more tackles and Charlton got more tackles inside 50 though, which matters a bit more. Bounces 10 for Charlton. Not that important. So it's only 12 in game. 1% is equal. The changes made 69. There was more on so anyway, that was a crazy game. Then this one, as an Essendon fan, I didn't think it was so bad. As you can see, my team's top player, my team. But as you can see, we of course we have. It wasn't that good. Like, it was a bit of a annoying game. If we just go back to the start here, I thought it was gonna be I think it was gonna be okay. Like, we had Sandro, but then we had Taco. That was very exciting. I think Taco's gonna be a good player this year. Then they were just steamrolled, really. It's very embarrassing. But not as embarrassing as the next week, as we will come up to later. But yeah, just go on to like anything will show you that. It'll just show you. What I understand is how Zach Merritt, he didn't play his best in that match. Probably why we lost, but 26 points isn't that bad. Next we have Geelong. Geelong, this was crazy. Everyone thought Freo was gonna like win the flag, and I don't really see why, but well, this is kind of proof that they aren't. And it also showed that Geelong is not a real team to be messed with. Like, look at that. You can't win with that. Sure, they had a bit of a comeback there. Down to like not that far. Then they just steamrolled, really. It's just really, really, really embarrassing for the Doctors when there was so much hype. Sure, Murphy Reid played a good game, but just overdrawn with all the Geelong players. This game was close. It showed that Sydney isn't a bad team because they had a bit of a lead there, but it just shows that it's hard for them to keep the ball in their possession. Rowbottom did play a good game there with 11 tackles back, and so did Heaney, but he always does. If you're just looking at like these players, it's just that was a very exciting game. I was doing horrible up to this point in tips. I got 0 in the opening round and 3 in this round, I think. So it wasn't that good. No, this one was expected, but everyone was surprised with North not being so bad because they had the top 3 players. Like, even though we all knew Bullies were gonna win, it wasn't by that much. And look, all of these are North Melbourne. That's a pretty crazy thing for the team that came 17th last year. And this game just showed that it wasn't Port's year, and Collingwood wasn't bad. You can see the match report just said too old, too slow, too good. Pies run hot and Port smashing. This was really bad for Port. Okay, so despite winning clearances, the Power recorded their biggest round 1 loss since 2000 against Essendon, and Essendon was the best side. So yeah, this was really embarrassing. This game showed the Saints had some bite in them. They weren't a bad team by any means, and also showed that the new Adelaide Crows logo has given them some sparks. And even though it was a tough game with Wadeneen and McRae, Sinclair, Wilson playing their best that they could have, by quarter 3 they were just getting tired. It showed that they were not experienced enough yet. They were a good team, but they couldn't play. And this time I thought was a very good performance by Melbourne, that they could keep it so zigzaggy for the game. Now, GWS did make a bit of a comeback here, but it was bound to happen. I think Westfield tipped GWS, but yeah, it was a close, good game for Melbourne. This just showed that West Coast, even though they had a pretty good year last year with Harley Reid, still don't have it. I'm pretty sure, tell me if this is true, but did they have Reid? No, they didn't. So it just shows that they need, and you can't rely on one player. But yeah. Sure. To West Coast, what do you expect? And that was round 1. Then we had round 2, and I think this was actually a good display by Carlton to not get smashed. Their defeat against Richmond. And they were even keeping it pretty close until quarter 4. So pretty good performance by them. And then we have Collingwood beating Western Bulldogs. This was a pretty close game. It was, either side could have won at any point. You can even see there was 6 points different. But it was a very exciting game. It showed that Collingwood isn't undefeatable. You can beat Collingwood, and the Bullies have some power. Now this was just Essendon kept it going until quarter 3, but then it just got out of hand for people. Still Zach Merritt. Look at that. Zach Merritt was the only player on field that actually knew what he was doing. But yeah, it's just emphatic victory for the Crows, who owned the ball with 129 to 59 marks and 77% kicking finishing to 60%. For the Bombers, Adelaide was able to rest talisman Isaac Rankine in second half and still hosted a massive 161 points with 7 players. And I remember this was their biggest loss of the MCG since somewhere in the 2000s or 90s. So it was pretty embarrassing. And it showed that we had a pretty good forward line and okay midfield and a really bad defense. Then we had Port Adelaide versus Richmond, and this showed that Port could win a game, and then showed Richmond wasn't the miraculous team after beating Carlton. And it showed the Port wasn't a bad team per se, but they weren't as good as they were last year. And it just, as I said, Richmond can't win another game. But yeah, it wasn't that bad till quarter 3, and they did try and make a comeback. It was all dominated by Port. But next we have this game. This was amazing for the Saints. It showed that they had a lot of talent, and it was horrible for Geelong. It showed that they were not the best team in the side, and I think most people have it in their head that they, well, even though they had the good win, that they aren't undefeatable. And even though they started to make a really big comeback in quarter 4 and end of quarter 3, the Saints that could have held on to that lead, and also we look at this full timeline. It you can see from like here it was like go, behind. They take a lot of behinds at the end there. Cost them the game. Yeah, it was amazing for St Kilda. Not as detrimental. Like, it was better for St Kilda to win that than it was for Geelong, but it was still really horrible for Geelong. Now, this was very interesting because everyone thought it was going to be a landslide, and it wasn't. West Coast was actually winning by a lot in the first quarter, and I was surprised that Brisbane even won. So it was good for West Coast to show that they actually had some potential, and it was a lesson for Brisbane to know that they actually can improve in a lot of ways. Now this was crazy. Showed how bad Melbourne is and how pretty good North is. And it was so close until quarter 4. Something happened in quarter 4 to Melbourne that it just got destroyed. Go to quarter 3. Goes go. Like, look at that. You can't. What is this? Like, 4 goals in a row is gonna make you go ahead, but yeah, that was really bad for Melbourne, and it's still showing today. Sydney, this was a close game. I tipped Freo personally, but Sydney won. It was pretty good. Amati, the hero of Swans. Marty says that he's going to be the new Lance, but yeah, it was a close game. 3 points. Like, give it to Doctors there. They actually came back after a really tough game last a few rounds ago, so good on them. Now we go into round 3, and this was amazing for the Bombers because we needed to. Well, it was just horrible last week, and we needed to show people that we can win a game. Because if we lost this, I think we were gonna go to Melbourne standards. But now we're 14th. We're not in big trouble. And it was really good. Zach Merritt still shows that it wasn't just Zach Merritt. And we obviously, because we kicked 9-18, we obviously went full on defense, which we did. Like, if you go on to where did we see this? Where it was like, yeah, like we all were back. No, that's poor. Anyway, the point is that nearly everyone went into the defense line because we knew that our defenders could not handle it, but also that weakened our forwards to kick 9-18. So we probably should have won that by more. But anyway, then we can go on to Carlton versus Western Bulldogs. And it was good for Carlton. It showed that they still have a chance in this place, but they still get 16th. But wasn't that much of a bad game. Bullies kept it going. It would look like a Carlton win up until the end. Like, I think, yeah, the Bullies weren't ahead until the end of quarter 4. You can see in this map. So, very close game, 8 points. Carlton did well for having pretty bad games, and I think they can make a comeback through the season. I just can't stand these Demons. I'm surprised they aren't 18th, personally. They just have got 62 and 60. I think it was 62 in the last one as well. It's massive scores in the last 2 games, and that's just not good. it's really bad for them. They can't play at all. There's gonna be no and it's putting like teams like the Suns fourth. Like, thought that, but just Melbourne. Surprised they're not last. Close, but not. Then we had this game. It was pretty much expected. Pretty massive win for the Saints, putting them up in 7th, which is higher than they expected. But yeah, it was mainly in the Richmond kept it pretty close in the first and second kind of first quarter of quarter 3, and then it started to become a landslide for Saints. But it was a good game by Richmond. This whole season has showed me that Richmond, even though they're not good, they aren't a 100% win. So yeah, if that game finished in quarter 2, it could have been a very different story. Then we have Brisbane versus Geelong. I think Brisbane was going into this with the tails behind their legs, same as Geelong after both losing to lower teams that we thought, like West Coast and Saints. So whoever won this game kind of showed who was better of the shit, really. But it was a very close game, 9 points. Geelong was winning for most of it. It was just the end. Some of the Western Bulldogs game. It was a good game to watch. I recommend it. But and also like Brisbane start 3-0 start. But still, it was pretty good for Brisbane to win that game. It was pretty detrimental, actually. Hawks are just on fire. They're first. No one can beat them. Yeah, I know a few people that tipped the Giants, but it just wasn't going to happen. They were smashing them in the first and second quarter, but as you may know, it was the wind. So the wind was really high at Tassie. So in the first quarter, GWS had the wind, and in the second quarter, Hawthorn had the wind, and then in the third quarter, GWS had the wind, but they didn't get a lot out of that. And then in the fourth quarter, Hawthorn had the wind to get them their win. So it was a good game, fun game to watch. Interesting with the wind in Tassie and how that's going to affect with the Tasmanian team and how much of an advantage they will have in their home ground. And we'll have to see about this. But it was a good effort by GWS. But you have to give it to Hawks. They're just probably the best team in the league right now. I was actually going to tip North for this. So I thought it was going to be an upset, and it wasn't. But North did amazingly well. To keep it so low of a score that they beat Essendon by a lot, and then they can have all 4 of these. It was amazing play by North, and I feel like if you need to get a player on your team, it would be a North right now, unless you want Bermuda. Anyway, this was also going to be a close game in my opinion, but it wasn't. Dockers showed that they can actually play football, and West Coast showed that they cannot still. So we'll have to see if West Coast can even win a game. So now I've gone over all of that because I have missed out on the last few weeks. Now I'm going to show you. Now I'm going to give you my tips for round 4 because I haven't done them yet, and I'll show you how bad it was. And then it was so bad. Then it was all this. Round 2 wasn't as bad, and then round 3 we got all green, which is really good, even though it was more predictable. Essendon gonna win, Bulldogs, Suns, Saints, Hawks, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Dockers. It wasn't that hard to tip. here we are, and we have Collingwood vs Carlton. One of the biggest rivalries in the league. I'm going to have to say, at this point, it has to be Collingwood by, I think that might have been win by like 40 points. Putting it up there. And then we have Geelong versus Melbourne. Geelong has to win this. It's probably going to be smashing. Melbourne can't play football. Adelaide versus Gold Coast. Let's look at a Gold Coast game, right? So besides when they versus Melbourne, they had a bye and smashed West Coast. But they're versing Adelaide, people. Like, it's at their home ground, though. I'm going to go with Gold Coast here, actually. Brisbane's going to win that. I'm going to... that's going to be a close game. Really close game for me. But I have to go North. Just a better team at the moment. Giants are going to beat West Coast. Easy smeezy. Saints are going to be Port. Sorry, Port. You're just showing that it's 1 week on, 1 week out. You can't rely on them. Doctors, Bullies. I have to go Bullies as well. I don't know what all the hype with the Doctors was, but it just wasn't going to happen. And then onto the last thing of the day that I'm going to be doing with you is fantasy. So if you look at my team, you'll see that I have a lot of Essendon players, but I also have Bazio. Well, what am I doing with team here? I would rather put on Adam Sard, which is not a good thing at the moment. But we also have Elhini. I have a few Isaac Heaney. I have a few good players. I made my captain Merritt because I feel like he's the best player in the league right now. A few players from different places. It's just I'm doing horrible in my league. It's just not going very well. 0-0-3. I just can't do it to verse my brother. And then look at this. Here's Science, SD Conan. He's winning on all these sides. It's gonna be a problem. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Jack out.